This is Get Your Entrepreneurship Together, where you'll find stories, tips, and value from successful entrepreneurs who are out there crushing it. Here's a short preview of this week's episode.
Only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. It's like, whoa, what did he just say,
Sense elevation using sight, using sound. Anchor it to something people already love, like Star Wars.
Complete this phrase: my product or idea or service is just like what? And be as crazy as possible first.
And welcome back to the show, everyone. My name is Brian Elam. I will be your host here on this episode of Get Your Entrepreneurship Together. And today, you are in for a treat, an absolute treat. I have James Bond here. No, not that James Bond. I'm talking about James Bond, the author of Brain Glue. If you want to understand how to have greater influence and impact and lead flow, if you want to understand all of those things, and more importantly, how to make them fun and simple, this is going to be the conversation you want to really pay attention to. So without further ado, we're going to bring James up onto the stage, and I cannot thank you enough for coming on, sir. I'm excited for this conversation.
Oh, Brian, thank you for having me. I was actually almost late because I've been listening to so many of your podcasts, and I got hooked on it that I was like, oh, wait, look at the time. But no, it's just great. It's easily understandable why so many people are starting to get hooked on your podcasts.
Well, I can't wait to dive into why you think that's the case, given the subject of the book and what we're going to be talking about. But this obviously isn't all about me. This is about serving and helping lift up other entrepreneurs and their businesses. So in order to do that, I always like to understand the person that I'm talking to, and so the audience can understand, who you are, where you came from, and that we really know what that foundation is. So that being the case, what is your educational background?
Well, I'm originally from Montreal. I've lived in Southern California for 37 years. We have a son and 3 daughters. We named our middle daughter, I gave her the initials LA, Lauren Asia, AJA, so that we'd remember how long we've been in Southern California. I ran an advertising agency in Montreal, and I worked my way up and eventually won major clients like Kraft Foods, Timex Watches, Abbott Laboratories, Seagram's, their world headquarters is there. I had worked hard and, because of the advertising and marketing background I had, and I had the opportunity to win the anti-drug campaign in America. And I came up with powerful, logical reasons why you should not do drugs. And I lost. And I lost for a good reason. And what I lost to was a guy holding an egg saying, "This is your brain," cracking the shell and dropping the egg into a sizzling frying pan. "This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?" When I saw the ad, 2 things happened. The first one was I recognized this is infinitely more profound and more powerful than the logical reasons I had. This is emotional selling. And then the second thing I realized was this is emotional selling, something I have no idea how to do. I was taught, it's where most of us are taught in school, answer with logic, give logical reasons why, features and benefits and all that stuff. And this was emotional selling, not logical. And I freaked out. And at first I thought, why am I in advertising and marketing if I don't know emotional selling, since this is so powerful? I did some research, went to the library and whatever else, and there's no real training on emotional selling. And so, superficial things, but nothing really major. And so when I got home, the scientist in me came out. I would write things on 3x5 cards. I love that. And I wrote "Your Brain on Drugs." And I put a box next to my computer. And I call it the passion box. And every time I see an ad or hear something that's emotionally powerful, it could be a quote from a famous person. I work with Warren Buffett's team, for example. Warren Buffett has all these fantastic quotes like, only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. I was like, what? What he's basically saying is only when times get tough do you realize who's really competent and capable. But by saying that metaphor, only when times, and he uses a trigger word, which is, these are two of the brain glue tools. Only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. It's like, whoa, what did he just say? And then we have a visual to go with it. It sticks to the brain more. But so I created a passion box, and I put your brain on drugs on a 3x5 card, and I put it in the box. My wife hated going to doctor's offices with me, because you go to a doctor's office, you see magazines you don't normally see, like Vogue. I don't subscribe to Vogue magazine. So I'm going through a magazine, and I stop, and she goes, "Do not tear it out of the magazine." And I'm like, "No, look at this ad. Look at this. This is incredible." So she sat as far away as possible. Like, I do not know that guy. Okay. But, you know, so after about 10 years, we had moved to Southern California, and that passion box was packed, by the way. It was loaded. We moved to Southern California, and I met John Gray. And John Gray is an author, and he was telling me about this incredible book he wrote, Men, Women, and Relationships. And he was frustrated because people who read the book said, "This is the most profound relationship book I've ever read. It's changing my life. It's incredible." And yet almost nobody was buying the book. So he was in a conference, in a seminar, trying to sell the book, and he said something, and all the women started laughing like crazy, and all the men were looking at the women and going like, "What's so funny about what he just said?" And so he said, "See, there are some things that women laugh at, and there are some things that men laugh at, and there are some things that everybody laugh at." And one of the women said, "It's almost like men are from a different planet. What planet do you think men are from?" And he said, "I guess men are from Mars." And everyone started laughing. And he was amazed by the interaction he had with the audience by saying men are from Mars. When he got home, he started thinking, well, if men are from Mars, where are women from? Well, women are from Venus. Venus is the god of love. What if I change the title to Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus? And then do some references throughout the book. So I refer to Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, but not change the book, use the same basic book. What do you think happened, as most of us know? He went from almost nothing sold to 500,000 sold, then 1 million, and 2 million. I know Steve Harrison, who helped him with marketing, and I said in my book he sold 10,000. He sold, I think he sold 10 million copies. And Steve said, "No, you're wrong." I said, "Steve, I researched it. I asked him." He said, "No, no, we're over 50 million books sold." Because he changed the title, he went from 20,000 to 50 million books sold, all because he changed the title. And so when I got home, I got to the passion box, and I was going to put the book in the passion box, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. But then I stopped and I said, wait a second. Men aren't really from a different planet. All you women out there, we are not from a different planet. Let's start there, okay? Although I think many of you think we are, okay? But I realized it's a metaphor. He's basically saying men are so different from women, it's almost like we're from a different planet.
Right.
And that's profound. That's a metaphor. And I went like, is metaphor the secret to emotional selling, or one of the secrets? I suddenly realized that this is your brain on drugs, is a metaphor also, because he's holding an egg. He's not holding a brain. Okay, here's a little brain. Okay. And so I started realizing, like, wow, metaphors must be, if it's not all, it's part of emotional selling. So I dumped the passion box on my bed. I needed a bed because I had so many samples. I wanted to put them in piles. And I discovered that metaphors is one of 14 brain triggers at the heart of emotional selling. I thought my brain was going to explode. In fact, I realized that these 14 brain triggers are profound. In fact, I believed they were profound, but as a consultant, I got to apply them on clients. And the first client I got to practice with was three guys in the construction business who, after 10 years, generated $2 million of sales. Not bad, $2 million of sales, right? Ha ha ha. I applied brain glue, and we took them from 2 million to 10 million in 1 year. And then 2 years later, they reached 32 million. All because I applied brain glue. I applied some of these tools in such a way that clients would laugh. Actually, we had this laughing thing, but they would buy. They would call up and say, "Okay, I'm ready. Come on, you guys got to come over here. I'm going to sell. I'm going to have you do some construction for us and for our clients." And I started to realize this is scary. I started applying it to my own business and online things that I was selling, and to helping other people. And I sort of got scared at first. I thought, have I just figured out something nobody's figured out? I've uncovered something that's blowing people's minds. And what it basically is a simple way to sell your ideas and your products by triggering the decision centers of the brain where decisions are made. And in fact, it's so powerful that famous people like Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, he sold 100 million Chicken Soup for the Soul books and 400 million of his other Chicken Soup books, Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul, Chicken Soup for the Cancer Survivor Soul. So he sold over 500 million books, plus he has over 60 other bestsellers, including The Success Principles. Well, he read my book. He started reading my book, and he was telling me he got pissed off. I have a friend that put it in a pile of books that he would look at. And he got pissed off. He said, I can't believe it. I started reading your damn book and I couldn't put the damn thing down. I'm like, I'm sorry. Can I use that as a quote? So I was like,
Right.
sorry, but I want that as a quote. As you're a famous person. What he did was, and this is one of the things that happened with my book. My book had 3 different titles as we went through time. Okay. So the first title was, I was reading about, and this is actually really quite a profound thing. I was reading about Carrie Smith, and Carrie Smith started a manufacturing company, and he started making some pretty good money. So he bought a company from a friend who makes fans, and he called the company HVLS Fans, which is high volume, low speed HVLS fans. And sales kind of trickled through, and he made some sales. They were big fans, so they would go into like a barn. So, if you have cows or horses, you're not going to put air conditioning in the barn. You're going to put a big fan in the barn. And so he called it, HVLS fans. But one day he's sitting, and he sold okay. But one day he's sitting with a friend, and he's trying to describe these fans. And he said, these are big fans. He said, how big? He said, these are big ass fans. And his friend starts laughing. Oh, big ass fans? Okay, you kind of got me. And he went like, oh, wow, well, I'm calling it HVLS fans, but what if I change what if I run an ad and calling it big ass fans? Let's see what happened. He ran an ad and sales exploded. And then he went, what if I change the name of the company to Big Ass Fans and change the name of the fans to Big Ass Fans? Sales exploded. He couldn't believe how much they exploded. And I'll tell you how much he exploded in a second. But what he did was, he said he started selling so many fans that he started offering other products too. But then he realized these other products are distracting him from fans, focusing on fans. So he stopped selling everything except fans. After 15 years, he sold his company. Guess how much he sold it for? A lot of people, we build a company, we sell it, we want to sell it for like maybe a couple $1 million or something. He sold it for $500 million.
Whoa.
Big ass fans.
Okay.
$500 million. So this was the week that I was like researching and learning about the big ass fans and all that stuff. Okay. And basically, just by the way, to focus on this, he had a logical title, which is HVLS fans. Okay. High volume, low speed. So he changed it to an emotional title. And that's what Brain Glue recognized, is that when you can use emotional triggers, sales explode like crazy. So this was my big ass fans week, okay? And I'm just launching the book. So I said, why don't I call the book? Why don't I use ass in the book and call it, dump your half-ass marketing strategy. Yeah, cool. So I created that as the title of the book, Dump Your Half-Ass Marketing Strategy, okay? And then I discovered Amazon told me that I had over 80 people who had done reviews of the book. And when you get over 100 reviews of books, Amazon will help promote your book even more. So I had about 80 reviews, and then Amazon sent me a message saying, because you have swear word in your title, dump your half-ass marketing strategies, we're going to actually ban you from advertising on Amazon. You can advertise other places, but not on Amazon, okay?
Oh,
And I'm like, oh no, So what I did was I begged them, and I talked to the technical people there. They finally gave me permission. I said, what if I change the title? Would you allow the testimonials to stay? And they said, we don't normally do this, but we'll let you do this for this. Okay, fine. Okay, so me like an idiot, I changed the title to a logical title. Okay, this is Brain Glue is about emotional selling, so I came up with a logical title, and it's sell more with the right brain marketing strategy. So now I met Jack Canfield. Jack Canfield read the book. He read part of the book and loved it. He's giving copies to everybody who works for him and requiring that they use it. And I said, can I use your testimonials. And he said, I'll let you videotape and everything else on one condition. You have to change the title of your damn book. I said, what? He said, your whole book is about brain glue, but you're teaching us emotional selling, and you have a logical title. That's crazy. You know, you have to do what you're teaching. You're teaching us how to do emotional selling. You got to change your book, brain glue. The whole book is about brain glue. You got to call it brain glue. I'm like, do I have to? He said, yes.
Do I have
And
to?
he's given me fantastic testimonials. But when you take a look at products out there, people out there who used these emotional selling tools, you start to realize how profound this is. I'll give you a simple example.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to ask.
Go ahead.
No,
So here's
yeah,
two simple examples, okay?
please.
Now here's an example that has nothing to do with selling a product. Although it is technically selling your product, it's a lawyer used it, okay? O.J. Simpson was on trial for murdering his wife and her boyfriend or a friend that was there. And so Johnny Cochran, his attorney, near the end of the trial, a friend of Johnny Cochran's gave him this pitch. And the pitch was, if the glove doesn't fit you, they said, we have this glove and it belongs to the murderer. And so OJ tried to put on the glove. He put on a rubber glove first underneath, and then he put on the glove. He was showing how hard it was to put on the glove, okay? And Johnny Cochran said, if the glove doesn't fit, you have to acquit, as obviously it looks like the glove didn't fit, okay? And so there were two jurors at the end of the trial. I remember seeing them being interviewed by a journalist. And the journalist said, with all that evidence against OJ, why do you find him not guilty? And one of them responded while the other one nodded her head in agreement. And she said, we knew if the gloves don't fit, you must acquit. The glove didn't fit. We had to acquit. Now, if I was competing, I would have said, he's an actor, okay? So you have to love how he faked the glove. Okay, I would have given him a rhyme alternative to that. He says, if the glove doesn't fit, you have to quit. Come on, he's an actor. You have to love how he faked the glove. Come on, and at least I would have had a chance of doing that. But so we start to realize that rhyme is one term that you can use. Trigger words are tools like, would you use the word dirty if you're creating a product? It's a dirty product. Well, how about if you're launching a movie? How about Dirty Dancing? Dirty Dancing became a blockbuster of success because it used the word dirty in it. Dirty Dancing? What's that?
Yeah.
That gets your attention. Dirty Harry. How about the Dirty Harry movies? Okay. Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I'm old enough to remember the Dirty Dozen. Okay. I mean, having the word dirty in it wakes up the brain. So, and that's what brain glue does. So let me give you two examples here, because one of them is the wake up the brain thing. So I have a TV next to my computer, and I don't normally have it on, but I had it on for whatever reason. And they had an ad for Blue Emu. Blue Emu is like arthritis cream. Like if your elbows or joints hurt, you put it on Blue Emu, and it makes them feel better. It's for athletes, but other people too. And so they had Johnny Bench, a famous baseball player, who's doing a commercial. I'm not looking at the commercial at all until he says this, and he goes, Blue Emu, it works fast and you won't stink. What did he just say? And from that moment forward, I was watching every aspect of the commercial. Woke up your brain. And that's what brain glue is all about. You've got to recognize that you got to wake up the brain. If you can't wake up the brain, there's a good chance that you think people are listening and understanding, but they're not. They're going, okay. Yeah, and I'm not really interested, or let me think about it, or whatever else. But if you can wake up the brain, you have a much better chance of making a sale. So let me give you an example of, there's a mom and son in Utah who are watching Shark Tank, and they love Shark Tank. And he had a job, whatever, and they love Shark Tank. And so they came up with the idea, wouldn't it be great if we can come up with a product that we can sell, and then we can get on Shark Tank and become multimillionaires? Because so many people become multimillionaires. Okay. So it took about a month to come up with a product. Because usually you don't care. Oh, I got a product right away. You got to think about it. You have to come up with something that's legitimate. It's got to be a good product. So the mom was constipated, and a doctor told her, when you're on the toilet, if you could raise your feet 6 to 8 inches off the ground, it actually changes the shape of your body and makes it much easier to go to the bathroom. I don't want to get too much into it, but that's it.
We have one of those in our house.
Okay, and don't say what it is yet. Let's share it with the audience, okay? Yeah, exactly. And so So the so they thought, okay, that's really a great idea. So why don't we get a little stool made that you can put underneath your toilet, and whenever you want to go to the bathroom, you can slide the stool out and put your feet on it. What do we call it? Well, we could call it the toilet stool, but that doesn't sound like a really good name, the toilet stool. What's another word for toilet? Potty! And you're kind of squatting, squatty potty. Oh, why don't we call it the Squatty Potty? Sales exploded. They passed 100. These are two people with no business experience who passed over $100 million of sales. The Shark Tanks, many of the sharks wanted to get into business with them because they recognized Squatty Potty. What a great product, and you're already selling a ton of them. Okay, yeah, I was in the hospital for heart bypass surgery about 2 months ago. So I'm telling the story to one of the nurses that's there, and she goes and she says, "You know what? I knew that you should raise your feet above the floor when you're on the bathroom because I'm a nurse and we kind of know that. But when I knew that, and I actually had this little thing I would put my feet on. But when I saw the ad for Squatty Potty, I loved the name so much I ended up buying the product. Had an alternative, and yet she loved the name so much she bought the product. Wow, it just blew my mind how how profound uh, brain glue is because it triggers the brain. It triggers a part of the brain that makes you go, oh wow. I mean, and it isn't just for products. Although I've got tons of product examples and people who changed their product names, and had tremendous results. Okay, uh, well, let me give you some examples of that. Okay,
Okay.
so we have Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. He changed the title of his book from Men, Women, and Relationships to Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and sales exploded. Okay. Um, Bob Parsons had a company that did internet marketing. Okay, and it let you set up a website and all that stuff. And he called it Jomax Technologies. And like John Gray from Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, people loved his service of building websites, but almost nobody was buying it. He had to really work hard to get to sell. So he's thinking, so let's come up with a better name for our company instead of Jomax Technologies. It was called Jomax. It was on Jomax Boulevard, I think, in Texas or wherever it was, okay, wherever the state was. And so he was talking to a couple of people that were working with him, and they're coming up with things. And he said, "Why don't I call it Big Daddy? Big Daddy technology." Well, it didn't exist. It
Mm.
was somebody already taken it. So he said, "Why don't we come up with GoDaddy? What a cool name that is, GoDaddy." The rest, as they say, is history. GoDaddy has already generated over $3 billion of sales. It went from almost nothing when he started it to over $3 billion of sales with a lot of help from the name GoDaddy. And that's one of the tools in Brain Glue, which is alliteration, a repetition of sound. GoDaddy. Okay. I mean, we have it. When I started researching it, I started realizing how many massively successful products use alliteration. Coca-Cola, Best Buy, PayPal, Lululemon, TikTok. You think if TikTok was called the Chinese social media platform, it would be as successful as TikTok?
Yeah,
Okay.
probably not. Even
Yeah.
before that, when it was Musically, it didn't
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
it didn't have the same proliferation at all.
Yeah, it's just alliteration. I was amazed by how many. I mean, they use it in politics. Biden's Build Back Better, Trump's Make America Great Again. Good, good, great again. He took that from Ronald Reagan. But it's just they recognize that when you use a certain tool, it sticks to the brain more than it would stick otherwise. And it's powerful. When you start to understand how this applies. So let me give you an example of. So let's say you're creating a glue. That's a very powerful type of glue. Okay. So what are you going to call it? Well, you should call it something glue. Okay. So you could use a metaphor. You could say it's as strong as an elephant. So it's elephant glue. But why don't we try alliteration, repetition of sound? Good. Gorilla glue. Gorilla Glue. Gorilla Glue sales exploded by using that term, Gorilla Glue, using alliteration. And in fact, I have many friends who are in construction, and they say JB Weld, as the competitor, is much better than Gorilla Glue. And yet, you go to a store like one of the construction stores or whatever else, and you've got three or four JB Wells, and you've got a whole line of Gorilla Glue type products
Right.
because they recognize that, Gorilla Glue, people, you're in a store and you go, Gorilla Glue? Oh, wow, what's that all about? And it stops, it gets your attention. Just like, it's just like it works fast and you won't stink. It's like, what? It grabs your attention. And so that's what, so we have this ad we're running. So one of the tools is rhyme. So I would say, pitch. Okay, we're helping you with your pitch. Okay, so what rhymes with pitch? Rich, switch. Okay, switch your pitch if you want to get rich. Okay, so that works. That was one of my early pitches for Brain Glue. Okay, as time went on, I wanted to be a little more sophisticated, so I said, um, it's a it builds desire in your buyer. Oh, so I came up with a phrase, Brain Glue shows you how to light the fire of desire in your buyer. Okay. So then we have trigger words, like naked. We have this guy who's his name is David Baer, Baer, and he's partners with this other guy, and the two of them they actually do marketing to marketers, to advertisers, and they show them how to make more money. Okay, and so I can't remember the name of his company, and honestly can't remember the name of his company. But as I'm listening to him, I went, Bear, I got the perfect name for your company, Bear Naked Advertising. Everyone will remember it, and it's naked, which also doesn't just mean naked, means you're naked, but it means, the basics, the basis of it, Bear Naked Advertising. His partner went, yeah, that's a great idea. We have to change the name. And he goes, I don't know if I want the word naked next to my name. And so he hasn't done it yet. But it would have been much better if he called it Bear Naked Advertising, because people would have gone like, whoa, okay. And so it's like they're trigger words. When you start to understand trigger words, you can actually use them and apply them in the products or services you have or the pitches you have. I mean, like I said with Warren Buffett, I work with his team, that Warren Buffett said, only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. It's like, whoa, it gets your attention because it wakes you up. And that's the power of Brain Glue is when it wakes you up. So I have this other one. We're just experimenting with it now, but it is starting to do really well, okay? It's time to make your butt sticky because sticky sells more. Here's how to get your butt making a fortune. I'm talking about the butt of your jokes. Yes, humor is one of the most powerful ways to generate a lot more money without wasting so much by making your ads and posts so sticky that they stick to your prospect's brain like glue, making it easier to get them to say yes. It's easier than most people realize. That's one of the things that we're running. And people are going like, what? What are you saying? We'll have to be careful. You don't want to you don't want to swear or be too bad. But it's just when you start looking at some of those types of tools, it becomes fun to come up with them, to use them, but it also becomes fun for people to buy it. They have so one of the tools, and this is a very important tool for your whole audience to consider, okay? And that is a metaphor. Complete this phrase. My product or idea or service is just like what? And be as crazy as possible first. Brainstorm. Come up with the craziest idea as possible. I could say naked, okay? So I could say brain glue is like having a naked man running through your backyard. It grabs your attention. You're going like, what? Okay, well, okay, that's it. So Paul Tran started a company, and he made electric razors for man's private areas. Okay, I don't want to get too much into that. Okay, but he was trying to think of a name. I need to come up with a name that will let people know what the product does, but it won't offend anyone. So he's thinking about it, and he said, it's almost like a lawnmower, like mowing a lawn. Okay, why don't I call it the lawnmower? He actually changed the name of his company to Manscaped. We're going to landscape a man with a lawnmower. Okay, so I didn't buy one, but if I bought one, I could see myself calling a friend and saying, hey, Joe, guess what I just bought? What? I bought the lawnmower. The lawnmower where you have to mow your lawn? I said, no, it's for me, shaving man's private areas. I could hear him laughing and saying to his wife, hey, Mary, come here. Guess what James just bought? The lawnmower. What? He has to mow his lawn? No, it's for shaving his private areas. It just goes. I was in, I think, Bed Bath Beyond or some store, and there's a poster, okay, a white poster, and it said, the lawnmower, had an arrow and pointed to the shaver. What do you think I did? Like every other guy did, stopped and went, what? And then read the details. And then I went, oh, it's for men's private areas, da, 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 and I read the details. How often do we run an ad that we want people to read the details about what the product's all about. Well, it got me, and I wasn't the only one. There were two good people. There were two guys standing there reading it in front of me, by the way. But the lawnmower with an arrow and showing a razor. It's like, the lawnmower, what? But it woke up the brain. It got us looking, and as a result of that, it just made a big difference.
Mm.
So here's one more example, okay, and then we can chat a little bit more. But um, how would you like to come up with a product, an incredible product? Your biggest competitor steals it from you, makes a fortune while you starve to death. Would that be fun? That would be fun, right?
No, I don't view that as fun, no.
It's not fun at all. Yeah, really. So, so Post Cereals competes with Kellogg's. And so the head of Post Cereal said, I got to come up with a product that's like blockbuster so we can beat Kellogg's. So he's thinking about it, and they come up with this cake, this little cake. It's a square rectangular cake. It has strawberry, blueberry, or raspberry jam inside it, like the fruits. And you could put it in a toaster. And when it comes up out of the toaster, you have this nice warm cake that you eat.
Mm.
And he decided to call it Country Squares. This is really cool. So that he thought, which it was. So 3 months before he launched Country Squares, he started bragging to the media, and he said, I've got this new product called Country Squares. Look, you put it in a toaster, comes up, you break it in, and you see there's jam inside it, or there's fruit inside it and everything else. And so the media loved it, and they promoted it all over the place, saying, here's a new product that Post is coming out with. So the head of Kellogg's, a competitor, looked at the promotions for the Country Squares and went, oh, this is too great. Called his guys, come here. You got to look at this. We need to figure out how to make that product, okay? I don't care what it takes. You need to figure out how to make that little cake that goes inside the toaster. And then he said, well, but we need to come up with a better name for it. As you know, we all know what the name is.
Yep.
But let me tell you how he came up with the name. So the first thing, one of the brain glue tools is called sense elevation. What's a sense? Is it something you hear, see, smell, taste, okay? So for him, it pops out of the toaster. So pop. So let's have it pop, okay? Pop could be part of the name. And back then, Andy Warhol was famous as a pop artist. And he was absolutely world famous and throughout America. He was like ultra famous. And he was a pop artist. So the word pop art is in everybody's brain already. They already knew the word pop art. So why don't we call it Pop Tarts? Okay. He launched the product 1 week before Country Squares, of course. Okay. They sold out. They couldn't. This is the biggest selling product they've ever had. They can't believe how fast it sold out. He ran apologies in newspapers saying, I'm so sorry we ran out of Pop-Tarts, but just hold on for a short while, for a day or two, and we're going to have Pop-Tarts in the stores again. Nobody bought Country Squares, and sales exploded. Last year, I was reading about this, they sold 3 billion Country Squares. So, 3 billion Pop-Tarts, not Country Squares. Okay, 3 billion Pop-Tarts. But Country Squares, within 30 days, they stopped selling, within 6 months, not 30 days, they stopped selling Country Squares. They tried, but people were buying Pop-Tarts, and God, I don't know what Country Squares is, but Pop-Tarts, I definitely want that, and sales continue to explode even to this day. And it's because they use terms that trigger parts of the brain. Pop, oh yeah, pops out of the toaster. Pop-Tarts, like pop art. Yeah, cool. I like that. And it's really powerful.
Hmm.
And that's one of the tools is anchoring, where you take something that already exists in the brain and you apply it to your product. So let's say you're coming up with a dandruff shampoo, okay? So you know the term. For little kids, almost all kids know it. Head and shoulders, knees and toes, eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. I can't even do that. My coordination doesn't work that well anymore. But so if I'm going to call a product something, why don't I call it Head and Shoulders shampoo? As we know, Head and Shoulders dominates a shampoo section, and it's just as massively successful. Okay, so President Reagan. So they use this in politics too. So when President Reagan was president of the United States, this is not a pro or con. It's just describing how anchoring works. Okay,
right.
So they recognized that it was right after the Vietnam War, and people were protesting against the war. They hated the war, and they hated the war. And so if you were going to do something about war, they would get pissed off and they would protest and whatever else. So, okay, so he wasn't going to focus on war. It was after the Vietnam War. But they were talking about it from a military standpoint. They said, we'd like to have a military uh, 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 um, missile defense system. But if we promote the missile defense system, then they're going to be really fighting us because and protesting because it's a missile defense system. We don't want to get into war and everything else. But back then, what movie was a blockbuster? Star Wars. Star Wars had just come out and everyone was loving Star Wars. So he said, why don't we come up with the Star Wars missile defense system? Because they anchored those two things together, suddenly people said, yeah, that's cool, the Star Wars missile defense system. And almost nobody protested against it. People loved it because he anchored it to something that people already love. And so these tools are powerful because if you have something you're trying to sell, or you're trying to sell an idea or a product, you start to understand these are brain triggers that actually make people, they trigger the emotion centers of the brain, making it people much more receptive to buying your product. Then it becomes just a powerful element. And like I said, there are so many people that change the name of their products or business, like GoDaddy and all these others, and suddenly sales exploded like gangbusters, that it works. And in fact, there's this one thing, it's called Hebb's Law in neuroscience. And Hebb's Law says, um, um, I have to remember this, okay? Hold on a second. It's neurons that fire together, wire together, okay?
I've heard that
Which
before.
means if you can trigger different parts of the brain at the same time, then it gets you much more engaged or involved in what it is that you're looking at or investigating. And so with brain glue, we're saying it's a metaphor. I work with Jack Canfield. He did Chicken Soup for the Soul. What's Chicken Soup for the Soul? Is it a book that when you open it up, you get chicken soup inside it? No, it's a metaphor. Okay. So when you see Chicken Soup for the Soul, your brain goes, Chicken Soup for the Soul. Okay. It's not chicken soup. Okay. Chicken soup makes you feel good. So Chicken Soup for the Soul. Okay. It makes you feel good. And then all these things are going on with your brain when you're looking at the title of the book. Okay. And so what we want to do when we're marketing is we want to understand that the more parts of the brain that we can trigger, if we can trigger different parts of the brain at the same time when we're pitching something or trying to sell something, it becomes much easier. In most cases, it becomes much easier to get people to say yes and to buy your product or accept your idea.
Yeah.
It's surprising how much this works. And I'm just amazed by how much this works. In the beginning, I just got scared. I was like, am I doing it? You make so much money. I remember when I first made over $1 million, I got scared. I called my wife and I said, Pam, American Express just charged our credit card over $1,000. And she said, well, disconnect it, stop it. I said, oh, wait a second. We just made 7, 8, 9,000, 10. I'm going to call you right back. When I called her and told her how much money we were making, she said, well, spend more, my wife. What can I say? But I mean, but it was scary because I started thinking, I've got so much money. Am I breaking the law? Did I do something bad? Because I'm not used. Today I'm used to it. Hey, send the money. It's okay. But for all of us, but when you pass a point where, you've never made over $1 million and suddenly you start making really big money, you start for a moment, you start thinking like, wow, did I do something wrong? And it's because it's wired into us who we are. I'm not a billionaire. If I make $1 billion, well, I'll be giving a lot of it away. But we have a definition of who we are. And that's why with a lot of people I work with and who've gone through brain glue, they start making more money than they've ever expected to make. And they like freak out positively. It takes a while, but you kind of get used to it eventually. Like the 3 construction guys I was telling you about, we went from 2 to 32 million in sales. When we went from 2 to 10 million in sales, they bought each other a brand new BMW. These are Beamer guys. Okay. They love BMWs, totally different color. And one was a different model, but they bought each other a present. Hey, we just passed $10 million in sales. Hey, let's buy each other a present. Okay. They did that. But as time went on, they started realizing like how powerful this is. And it just changes your mind. So you start realizing, yeah, this is good. So I made 10 million. Let's see if we can get to like 20 million. I actually got to 30 million, but yeah, it's just pretty cool.
Oh,
does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And man, you just gave a lot of examples, things for people to think about. So yeah, guys, if you just rewind it, just rewind what you've seen and heard so far. Go back through, make sure to take some notes, and just start getting these little details down about, like I did with, we need to use metaphors, triggers, rhyming, things that wake up the brain, alliteration, sense elevation using sight, using sound, anchor it to something people already love, like Star Wars. Who doesn't love Star Wars, right? So these are just amazing techniques and things to do, and I'm feeling a little inspired here. Maybe in the last 15 minutes or so, we could kind of brainstorm a brain glue for a hypothetical product. So
Well, let me give you an example of how this is an easy way for all your audience to at least start applying this. If that's Is that okay?
that is exactly what I wanted to do. So if you already have that, then let's go.
Okay, so the first thing the first thing you want to do is come up with a metaphor by completing the phrase, "My product or idea is just like what?" And be as crazy as possible. Remember the electric razor that was the lawnmower,
Right.
okay? You don't ultimately have to use the craziest idea, but often people will. But if you don't, it will at least be a starting point for brainstorming. Okay, I mean, chicken soup for the soul. He went like, my book is like chicken soup. It makes you feel better. Oh, okay, So that's the first thing. The second thing you want to do is make a list of all the different words that relate to your product, like squatty potty. Okay, so it's like it's toilet. Okay, so toilet. What are other words for toilet? It's a potty, and I don't know what else. We have the porta potty. We know that too. Okay, so we know that that's used. I have a 6-year-old grandson, and I said, "Oh, look at that up there." I was pointing to one of them, and I said, "You know what that is?" He said, "Yep, it's a porta potty." He's 6 years old, and he knows what a porta potty is. Okay, so that's what you want to think of. List all the words that relate to your product or the benefit that the product delivers on, and then start looking for words that rhyme with that. Okay, that's a really good way to start. Also, now you can tie the two together. Okay, you can have a metaphor with rhyme. Okay, those, when you put things together, it works really well too. And then the third one you want to do is, with all those words that you've listed that relate to your product or service or idea, think of alliteration, the repetition of sound, like Gorilla Glue. So I'm selling
Mhm.
glue. What else sounds like glue? Guns. Uh, great. Gorilla. Okay, gorilla. Oh, interesting. Okay. And now Gorilla Glue ties two things together. It ties a metaphor. It's as strong as a gorilla, and alliteration. Good. Gorilla Glue. Okay, puts those two things together. And I think if you just take those few, I mean, hopefully you get the book, because I have lots of them in there. There's 14 different ones. But whether you do or not, if you start with a metaphor and then rhyme, list all the words that relate to your product, and then what rhymes with those words, and then what alliteration, what sounds like that word, I think that you're going to start getting ideas that are going to just trigger your brain. You're going to go, oh, and then you're going to be able to come up with one that is going to boost your sales and actually let you have a lot more fun doing that.
All right. Excellent. Thank you so much for that example and kind of guiding us through that a little bit. So let's say you've come up with your Gorilla Glue, like you've got the name of your product and the name of the company, right? So how do we take that particular formation? How do we take that one phrase and start explaining it in a way that's brain glue type sticky, but more in a more drawn out fashion? Like if you're pitching somebody, if you're having a commercial, like how does that concept go farther and wider?
If you ever do advertising, or if you do posts, you want, there are two things that you want. You want people to see your post, and you also want it to go viral. Even your ads, you want them to go viral, and Brain Glue helps you make them go viral. Okay, and how does it it go viral? Because, like Gorilla Glue, and it's easy to remember and it's easy to describe. Hey, I was talking to my wife about Gorilla Glue, and it turns out that I have one. Oh, here. I have Gorilla Glue. I didn't even know it. Okay. I went to the store and I bought Gorilla Glue long before I talk about it and with Brain Glue. Why did I buy it? Because I went to the thing and I saw the counter and the shelf and it had all the Gorilla Glues in it. But so let's take Gorilla Glue as an example. Okay. If you have enough money, if you don't have enough money, then you want to do at least posts and try to distribute the posts and get lots of people doing this. And I'm going to give you an example in a second about this is really powerful. This woman that got 5 million fans and spent zero on advertising. Okay. But so the first thing you want to do is you want to, if you're many people advertise anyway. So if you do ads, you definitely want an ad with a brain glue type term in it, like Gorilla Glue. Okay. Famous Amos cookies. Okay. Hula hoop, Rocky Road ice cream. Rocky Road ice cream uses anyway. But so you want to go through this, okay? So if you are doing any promotion at all, you want to use this tool, a tool that makes people go like, "Whoa, what's that? That's interesting." Okay. Um, so let's pick Gorilla Glue as an example. Okay. So with Gorilla Glue, there are two ways that you could market it. The first way you could market it is by advertising and trying to distribute it to stores. The second way you can do it, which is most people will do it this way, is you don't have enough money to do that, but you have enough money to make a bunch of products, maybe like like um, the toilet stool, the squatty potty. They probably bought 1,000 of them at like about $2 each or $3 each, and they got an inventory of it. Okay, so you have an inventory of them. Then you can go into stores, small or larger stores that sell, construction type things or, pliers and screwdrivers and stuff like that. And just ask them, would you like to carry my product? And then often they'll say yes, especially the small ones. You'll make enough money, you could sell it to more. Hey, he's selling them, about 50 a day or whatever else it is, and you start selling it to other stores and do it that way. But there's other things that you can do also. But once you start making money, then you spend more money. Or if you make it on Shark Tank, if you start making money, you get on Shark Tank, or you get investors to help you also. That could be, or it could be family members that help you, and then you start spending more money on advertising or promotion. So there's a woman who she's a stay-at-home mom, and she wanted to create a Facebook page, but she didn't have money to spend, so she wasn't going to promote it or anything. She created a Facebook page that has more than 5 million fans, and she spends zero on advertising. Now what she does is she actually advertises and sells products. She didn't even originally even sell products, but she has so many fans that now she's selling products to them. So she's thinking, what's a good name for my Facebook page? Mommy. I'm a mommy, so let's make it Mommy. Mommy needs time to herself. Mommy needs a rest. I know what Mommy needs. Mommy needs vodka. So she created the page, Mommy Needs Vodka. Okay. Mommy Needs Vodka. So I have a friend who must be one of her fans, and he sent me like, they shared stuff. So I got it and I saw a post and I liked the post. It was really fun. And then I saw it's from Mommy Needs Vodka. What the heck's that? I clicked on the link, which is exactly what we do. Took me to her page. I looked at some of the posts on her page. I love the posts and I became a fan, as more than 5 million other fans have been. Okay. And that's how it works. Okay. She got over 5 million fans. Don't you, now she's selling stuff to them. But in the beginning, she was floored that so many fans started signing up for her thing. But why? Because it grabbed our attention. Mommy needs vodka. What? Mommy needs vodka? Click on that. And that's just like, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. I'm in a store. And the first time I bought it, I was in a store. I was looking at book. Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Book. Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus? What the heck's that? I picked it up, which is, if you pick it up, there's a good chance you're going to buy it. Look through the book, and I bought it. Mommy needs vodka. That's Facebook stuff. I'm looking at a post. Like, Mommy needs vodka? Click on that. Took me to the page. I started checking out the page, and I decided to become a fan. And many people now are buying products from me. And that's what we need from a marketing standpoint. Is we need to be in front of who our potential audience is, and then we need to offer something that's going to make them go like, what? And then they're going to check it out. And when we do that, we have a much better chance of making the sale. Oh, hopefully that answered your question, but that's To me, that's, the biggest thing. And that's why, and this is one of the biggest things. I have tons of the examples in Brain Glue are people that had almost no money, but they competed with major brands. There's these two or three guys in Southern California who started a natural juice, and they're competing against Odwalla, which is owned by Coca-Cola. Okay, so you got a giant company, and Odwalla dominates the juice industry, natural juice, right? So these guys said, we want to come up with a juice that's really good. It's all natural. It's better than Odwalla, and we think we can do really well. What do we want to come up with? We don't have a lot of money. Why don't we call it naked juice?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so naked juice is a trigger word. Okay, I've got lots of trigger words I show you, but the trigger word, naked juice. But they were kind of embarrassed that they called it naked juice, so the word naked wasn't very big. But sales went pretty well, and they sold a lot of juice. So they figured, okay, now we've got money, which is usually what happens. So why don't we hire somebody to redesign our labels? So the designer came to them and said, well, you got to put naked big. It's got to be a big word over there. And I said, you think so? Yeah, yeah, yeah. We got to put it big. They put the word naked on their naked juice, and they've got the juices. They shot past Odwalla and have become the largest selling natural juice in America.
Mm.
You remember, Odwalla was owned by Coca-Cola. I think it still is. Okay. They passed Coca-Cola. It has an infinite amount of money to become massively successful. Why? Because they triggered you're in a store and you're going, naked. Naked? What's that? And you read it. Oh, okay. It's, so and so. Yeah, it sounds pretty good. You pick it up and you check it out. Oh, this looks really good. And you buy it. And that's why you have to understand that when you use tools like this, you're going to grab attention, so people at least will check you out. Now, you have to have a good product or service, but just because you have a good product or service doesn't mean you're not going to struggle. Most do. Most of us struggle. But Brain Glue changes that, and that's what Brain Glue does. It gives you an opportunity to compete with big sellers, massively successful and wealthy people, and win.
That's what
Last
it's all about.
example. I'll give you this example. But so, what if you're competing against a McDonald's and Burger King and all that stuff? They spend hundreds of millions of dollars in advertising. Okay, how do you compete with them? Well, In-N-Out Burger is a perfect example. Okay, In-N-Out is something called chiasmus, which is a flip. Okay, in and out. Okay, up and down. It's like okay, there are lots of different things. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, okay, became Blockbuster because it uses chiasmus to flip, okay? So In-N-Out also means sex to a lot of us, okay? So I remember they, and it's a drive-through restaurant because they didn't have enough money to create it as a big come-in restaurant. So they made it a drive-through restaurant. They said In-N-Out would be a really good name for it, but also it has that trigger word of in and out. It's like sex. So I remember driving down the street. We're going to go to McDonald's, and we're passing by the big sign. They afford a sign, okay? The big sign, and it's like In-N-Out Burger. In-N-Out? In-N-Out Burger? What's that? My wife and I were laughing as we turned the car around and drove through In-N-Out to check it out. Like the burgers, and obviously we go back. But that's what you want, is you want to grab attention because we're competing against so many people and companies and brands and products and ideas that are trying to grab attention that you're just one of these little things that shoots right past them. You think they're listening, you think they're looking, but they're not. And that's why we need a tool that's going to wake them up so they're going to go, whoa. And when they do that, we have a better chance of making the sale. Sorry, I'm blabbing a lot. So
No,
I love it.
it's perfectly fine. That's what we're here for. We're here for all the examples, all the analogies, so that people can start drawing their own conclusions, coming up with their own ideas. I love the fact that you walked us through the beginning processes of coming up with someone's own Brain Glue, like slogan, business name, what have you. So we're just right down to the wire here, but I want to make sure we let people know where they can best find you, where they can get the book. How do we do this?
Well, the book's available on Amazon and through bookstores, but an easy way to go is go to yesbrainglue.com. If you go to yesbrainglue.com, it gives you lots of details and information about the book and about people and their experiences with it and all that stuff. So I think you might like it. So yesbrainglue.com is an easy way to do it.
Perfect. Absolutely. Well, guys, those links are going to be below, so you can click, go check it out, go get the book. I just started listening to it, and it is phenomenal so far. I can't wait to get through the rest of it. And as you know from this conversation, there's a lot of value that's going to be in that book because we only had 1 hour. The timeline on that Audible is 4 hours. So there you go. Well, James, again, I can't thank you enough for this conversation. I knew it was going to be great. Really appreciate that, sir.
Oh, Brian, thank you so much. I love your podcast. And I think if anybody's listening to this podcast, listen to some of the other ones too. You'll love this because he's so serious and gives you really good tools. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on this.
Absolutely. My pleasure. All right, guys. Well, you know what to do. Like this episode, share this episode, subscribe if you want more great content like what you just heard from James. This is the way to cut through the marketing noise that is out there and get your message and your brand heard and picked up. You just heard multiple examples of this in real life. So again, like the show, share it out. You never know who you can impact with just a simple free share. And peace. We will see you in the next one.